I know. You don't like videos. I'm sorry, but yesterday I forgot to do a video over amplitude and period. So we're going to go do a quick little video over amplitude and period. You can check to see how well you guys did problems 3 and 4 because you're supposed to do that on your own. If you haven't done that, guess what? Make sure you do it with me right now. So right now, what you should have in your journal is this. Y equals A sine B theta, or Y equals A cosine B theta. All right? So right now, if we look at problem number 3, what's my A value for problem number 3? 1.5, that's right. And what is my B value for problem number 3? 4, very good, okay? Now, when we're trying to find the amplitude will always be the absolute value of whatever the A value is. So the absolute value of 1.5 is 1.5. So we've got 1.5. Now there is a formula for the period. So if you ever want to find the period, all you have to do is take 2 pi and divide it by your B value. In our particular case, we're going to take 2 pi and we're going to divide it by 4. And that just becomes pi over 2. So our period, everybody, for number 3 is pi divided by 2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a typical cosine wave. All right, what it would look like if it was just y equals cosine. Don't do this on your paper. All right, but typically you would do what? You would start at 1, and it would go all the way to what? It would go all the way to 2 pi. So let's pretend right now. Let's pretend this is 2 pi. It would go down through here, back up, through here, and it would finish. And the period of a typical cosine wave is 2 pi. Now we're going to do this. We're going to say our new one is going to be in what? Just pi over 2. So we're going to take a look at this in the graphing calculator. So turn your graphing calculators on. Hit y equals. Okay? I want you guys to hit cosine of x. Alright? And then I want you guys to hit cosine of 4x. Because I want you guys to understand what happens to the period when you change the b value from a 1 to a 4. Now we're going to change the window real quick. We're going to go from negative to... Actually, I'm just going to start at 0. What is wrong with me? Go to the window button. We're just going to start at 0, and we're going to go to 2 pi. We're going to do the x scale at pi divided by 2. We're going to do the y minimum at a negative 1 and a y maximum as a positive 1, because I want you guys to see the difference between the cosine of x and the cosine of 4x. There's your typical cosine wave. Typically, if you have a period of 2 pi, you have how many cosine waves? You have 1 cosine wave between what? Between 0 and 2 pi. But if you change it to 4x, look how many times it happens. This is what I'm trying to help you guys understand. How many do you have? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. I know, my lines are horrible. Okay? They're horrible. But what I'm trying to help you guys understand is now, look, what's our new period right here? What's our new period? Right there. From here to here, that distance is just what? Pi over 2. Before, it was from 0 to 2 pi. It was the cosine of x, right? But our new one is what? Y equals the cosine of 4x. So here's what I did when I was your age, like when I was trying to understand it. In a period of 2 pi, how many times do you see a cosine wave within 2 pi? You see it 4 times. So how long does it take for it to finish one of them? It only takes what? From 0 to pi over 2 to finish one cosine wave. That's what the period is. Okay? So now we're going to go back and we're going to graph our function right here. So here's what you should have done. On number 3, that's a little bit too thick. Okay? On number 3, right here at 1.5, I want you guys to draw a dotted line. Okay? And right here at negative 1.5, to the best of your ability, draw a dotted line. Or it doesn't have to be dotted, it just could be nice and long. All right, now we are going to graph problem number 3. Remember, our amplitude is 1.5 and our period is pi over 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to graph everything right here together. So that y equals, I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to type in y1, 1.5 cosine 4x. All right? But I'm going to change my window. Now, if we look at our picture, we're going from negative pi to what? Positive pi. So go to your window. From negative pi to positive pi. Okay? Now, let's look at our x scale. From negative pi to positive pi, our x scale, right here, it's kind of hard to see, but halfway between a 0 and a pi over 2, if you take half of this, that becomes pi over 4. If that doesn't make sense, hopefully you'll understand. If I take pi over 2, and what do? I multiply it by half, that becomes pi over 4. So that's what I want our x scale to be. I want it to be pi divided by 4. Now, on your graph, it goes from negative 5 what? It goes from negative 5 to positive 5. So I'm just going to do it negative 5 to positive 5. So it looks exactly like your paper in the y scale of 1. Okay? So everything matches now. I'm going from positive 5 to negative 5. I'm going from negative pi to positive 5. My x scale is what? Pi over 4. So now I'm going to hit graph. Now, this is what I do when I'm graphing it. This is what I want you to do. Look at where all the zeros are. Where are my zeros? Right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. By the way, this tick mark, everybody, is at pi over 4. This tick mark is at pi over 2. So where are all my zeros located? They're all located between my tick marks. That's where they're all located. So what I'm going to do right now is between my tick marks on my paper, what am I going to do? I'm going to put what? That's where the 0 is. That's where the 0 is. Between my tick marks. I'm following the pattern of this right here. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put wherever my values for y equals 1.5. And notice, where are they happening? They're happening at from what? Every pi over 2. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to work my way all the way across. So right here, that's my first place. Okay? Right there. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's where all of my positive 1.5s are. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to go back and look at my picture. Where are all my negative 1.5s? There's the fingers. All right. So this is at pi over 4, right? This is at pi over 4. That's my first one. So this right here, what's this going to be at? This is going to be at negative pi over 4. Yeah, okay? So what I'm going to do is it's going to go right over here. Right here at what? Pi over 4. I'm going to put a point here. Right here at negative pi over 4. I'm going to put a point. And that makes it a little bit easier to follow the pattern. Now, what am I going to do? I'm going to now connect things going down, making my cosine wave. So I'm going to start right here. Now that I have all of my zeros and my maximums and minimums plotted, now I can do what? Now I can trace. Going through my zeros neatly and carefully. I realize this is not easy. So I'm just looking for some effort. What's effort? Plotting what? All of your zeros. What's effort? Plotting all of your maximums and then plotting all of your minimums. So you should have a graph that looks like this for problem number 3. You're going to do problem number 4 the exact same way. Now I will help you right now with the amplitude. I'll help you with the period, but that's going to be it. And I'll give you time to work on that on your own. So right now the amplitude is the absolute value of your A value. Our A value is negative 2/3, so our amplitude is a positive 2/3. Okay? So my A value equals negative 2/3, but the absolute value is positive 2/3. My B value, it says theta over 2. Our B value is 1/2. That's where our B value is. So if I wanted to find my period, what's the formula for period? Two pi over b. So what do I have to do? I take 2 pi and divide it by my value of b, which is a positive 1/2. What did we talk about yesterday? We have a fraction down here. What did we talk about? What would we have to do both to the numerator?
Multiply by the reciprocal.
Multiply by the reciprocals. We're going to multiply both this by a 2/1 and this by a 2/1. These cancel out, and you're left with 4 pi. That means it takes 4 pi before that graph finishes. 1 revolution. Okay, from beginning to end. That's okay. You can stop. Alright, so right now, I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. Window. Negative 2 pi. Positive 2 pi. This is pi over 2. Alright, the y minimum is still negative 5 and positive 5. Okay, we're going to hit y equals. We're going to do negative 2 divided by 3. Hit the sign button, then do x divided by 2. Close that parentheses. Hit graph. There it is. So, first thing I'm going to do, Josiah, first thing to do, I'm going to put a 0 right there. Look, I'm going to put a 0 right there. And I'm going to put a 0 right there.
Yeah, Josiah, you should be good.
Hey, no, I'm going to check. Right here, let's check y equals negative 2/3 sine of x over 2, or theta divided by 2. There it is, yeah? Okay. There's our graph.
Hold on, keep it.
I'll keep it right there. Not going to move it, Josiah. Right there. Negative. So, negative 2 sine x divided by 2. Okay, so if I put y equals negative 2/3 sine, I do x over 2. Understand, you see this button right here? X, that t symbol, which we'll get to that if it's only parametric equation. And what's that symbol right there? Theta. So that's what we're going to be using for, so instead of theta over 2, we're using x is your theta. So you put x divided by 2. Now right up here, there's the max, and there's the minimum. Okay? So remember, this is what? This is at pi over 2. This is at pi. This is at 3 pi over 2. So right here, we're at a negative pi over 2. We're at a negative pi. So if we're plotting this, that's what you're trying to do. And remember, when I said draw your dotted lines, you're just trying to get close to what? Close to that 2/3. I realize it's very difficult, so I'm just looking for some effort. So right here, that's a positive 2/3, that's a negative 2/3. There's your sine function. All right. Let's go to the back page, if you would. Okay. Right now, it says write an equation. Okay. So what I'd like you guys to do, get your journal out. Okay. We're going to do problem number 6 together. Okay. Because it says write an equation that deals with a sine function. Then it says write an equation that deals with a cosine function. So what we're going to do is we're going to do problems number 6 and 8 in your journal. So go ahead and get those out. We're going to do those 2 problems in your journal. Then you guys can do 5 and 7 on your own. All right, everybody. What's our amplitude equal to? It's equal to 8.5. So technically, you could write y equals 8.5 times the sine of, and this is what we got to figure out. We got to figure out what is going to be our b value and what's theta. Theta is just going to be b theta. We got to figure out our b value. So we have to use a formula. So we're going to use a formula. And what's the formula? I don't want the answer, Raymond. I want the formula. You know the formula? No? Okay. So it's 2 pi over b equals the what? Equals the period. Now, I am taking my time and energy to write the word period just so I can erase it and substitute it with what our period is, because I care that much. Now, what's our period equal to? 6 pi. So just put 6 pi, but put it over 1. Put 6 pi over 1. So if we cross multiply, we get b times 6 pi equals 2 pi. B times 6 pi is equal to 2 pi times 1. So what are we going to have to divide both sides by?
6 pi.
6 pi. On this side and what? 6 pi on
Your b value is
going to be 3 pi. No, it's not going to be 3 pi, but it's close.
It's the third.
No. Yes, well, yeah, you're right. It is theta. It's going to be theta over 3. But our b value, everybody, listen up. Oh, that's a horrible trick.
1 over 3rd.
That's what I was trying to do. My b value is what? 1 over 3. So right here, if I take this and erase it, like that, right? And I put a 1/3 right there. You could put 1/3 of theta, that's fine. But you're right. A better way of writing it. Remember, you're doing this in your journal, so you could write multiple ways, right? You could write multiple ways. I'm going to write theta over 3. Now, if you wanted to be a smart aleck, you could also write another equation just to show me up.
Yeah.
So do we need to write?
Yes.
Okay.
What the think we
By the way, technically, both of these answers technically are correct. Because it just says amplitude, right? The amplitude is always the absolute value of whatever your A value is. So it could be both. Technically, it could be both. And sometimes there's math snobs out there that if I wrote that down, they might, make a derogatory comment like,
That's not right.
you could have a positive and a negative. Well, you know what? Do what?
That's what he told me to do.
Yeah.
So here we go. That's problem number 6. Now let's look at problem number 8. Hopefully you guys can see everything up there. Problem number 8, here's what I'm going to write. Remember, we're dealing with the cosine function. We're going to write y equals, we're going to put negative, actually we'll start with a positive. Positive 1/5. But remember, we could also do what? Y equals a negative 1/5 if the amplitude is 1/5. Alright? This time we're going to write what? Cosine. And what we need to find is what? We need to find our b value. So remember, the formula to find our b value is 2 pi over b is equal to our period. What is our period?
2 pi.
2 pi over 5.
That's what I'm doing.
Right? 2 pi over 5 is our period, right? And 2 pi over b is equal to our period. So what does it look like our b value is equal to? Without having to do any cross multiplication or solving, Is 2 pi equal to 2 pi?
Yes.
Yes.
So B is 5.
So what does b have to equal?
5
Without doing any work.
The number between
That was pretty easy,
6.
right? Now, let's say, for example, you did not recognize that b was equal to 5. Then what could you still do? You could still do cross multiplication. What's 2 pi times 5? That's 10 pi. What's 2 pi times b? That's 2 pi times b. And if you divided both sides by 2 pi, if you worked out the math, just did the math, what would you still get? You would still get 5 if you still worked it out. This is what I want you guys to do for the next 2 problems, which are what, 6? No, sorry, 5 and 7. Do 5 and 7, okay? Once you do 5 and 7, then I'll give you guys a hint for how to do 10 through 13. All right. So what we're going to do, look at number 7, okay? Number 5 is pretty easy, all right? If you don't have number 5, you can use these concepts to get number 5. Right now we're trying to find a what? A cosine function. So right now I'm going to write y equals, what was our amplitude? 0.5. So I'm just going to put plus or minus 0.5 times the cosine, and we're going to put b theta. So what am I trying to find right now? I'm trying to find my value for b. That's what we're looking for. Now it says our period is equal to 0.2 pi.
Yeah.
Now if you don't know this, 0.2 is 1/5. Right? 2/10 is equal to 1/5. So they could have also said what? The period is 1/5 of pi. Our formula is 2 pi over b is equal to the period. Well, what is our period equal to? 0.2 pi over 1. Now, I didn't use 0.2 pi over 1. I used what? Pi over 5, but we'll use 0.2 to help you out. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply, which is 0.2 pi times my value for b is equal to 2 pi. So I noticed quite a few people divided both sides by what? 0.2 pi. Or 2/10. Now what's going to end up canceling out? This pi is going to end up canceling out that pi. And so you have 2 over the decimal of 2/10. Now you can do this in the calculator and you will get 10. But if you did it by hand, I know it's 1/5, right? Multiply both sides by what? 5 over 1, you still get 10. What does that mean? It means our b value is equal to 10. There's your answer. You're going to have a quiz. I'm going to be giving you what? I'm going to be giving you an amplitude. And I'm going to be giving you a period. What do you need to be able to do? Well, that's because you did the wrong version. You did 0.2 divided by 2 pi instead of 2 pi divided by 0.2 pi. Right, there you go. So you did the inverse of it. That's why you got that. Okay. All right. All right. So right now, Kaylee, you were working on problem number 9, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's check it out. It says a piano tuner strikes a tuning fork for note A above middle C and sets in motion vibrations that can be modeled by this equation. It says find the amplitude and the period. Well, the amplitude's pretty easy. Which one's got to be our amplitude?
0.00.
Right, 1,000, right? So I'm going to put 0.001, which is the same as writing 1 over 1,000. This right here, everybody, this is our amplitude. Now, everybody, this right here, that value right there is b. 2 pi over b is the formula that will always give us the period. If you can recognize what b is, you can use this formula every single time. So what value am I going to put right there? Let's put 880 pi. What's going to end up canceling out? The pi. Can 2 go into 880?
440.
you have that? By the way, everybody,
Yeah.
do you see this right here?
Yes, sir.
That fraction is your period. That is your period. 1 over 440 is your period. If this is the B value. That's your amplitude, this is your period. Alright, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on one of these graphs. I'll go back. And I'll pause it real quick. What you need to do to start out number 10. What I want every single person to do. I was trying to use this blue. I like it. Do this. Okay? Do this. Okay? This will help you understand the amplitude. I want you guys to understand what amplitude means. Amplitude is the distance from the midline. Everybody, this is your midline right here. Going up or from the midline going down. So what is the distance? What's the amplitude from the x-axis going all the way up? A 2. All right? So I know my A value. Listen, I know my A value is either a plus or a minus 2. It just depends. Sometimes it's a plus, sometimes it's a minus, but we're going to call right now my amplitude. I'm going to write amplitude. Is equal to 2. I know that. Now we have to figure out our period. So let's check this out. I'm going to put a point here. Now, what starts either at a 2 or what starts up here but not at 0? Which graph? Is it a sine or a cosine? What do you think? It is cosine. You're right. It is a cosine graph. So we're going from here to where? To right here. Because right now we have not done any horizontal shifts yet. We're going to be doing that next. But we haven't done that. So we're going to call this a cosine graph. So it starts here and it finishes here. Everybody, the distance between here and here, that is what's called the period. So what is the distance from 0 pi to 4 pi? 4 pi? That's your period. So now what do we have? We have our amplitude. We have our period. And there is a formula for the period. Remember, the period is always equal to 2 pi over B. What is our period equal to this time? It's equal to 4 pi over 1. When you cross multiply to solve for B, what are my cross products? 4 pi times B equals 2 pi. When you divide both sides by 4 pi, you get B equals 2 over 4. And what is our B value? 1/2. This is a positive cosine graph. You'll notice it starts up here and it goes down. That's positive. That means your amplitude is actually 2, which also means your A value is also 2. So here is your final answer using the what? Using the B value and the A value. I'm going to write out your final answer. Y equals, what's our amplitude? 2. What kind of graph was it? It was a cosine. And I'm going, instead of writing 1/2 of theta, like that, instead of writing 1/2 of theta,
Theta over 2.
I'm going to put theta over 2. This is what's going to be on a quiz or a test. I will give you a graph. You have to write the equation that goes with the graph. So what did I do to solve this? I figured out the what? I figured out the amplitude. I figured out the what? The period, and did what formula? 2 pi over B. This is due Monday.